Don't talk too loud. The chai coms are listening. They got balloons over our head looking down on us, listening. I'm not gonna settle for any of this new world order stuff. They're gonna listen to us. They're gonna send the balloons over and listen to us all day. They're gonna hear us. They're gonna see what we're thinking. They're gonna take our gas stoves and they're gonna take everything away from us. Yeah, with the balloons. I do notice that my Alex Jones kind of tends to drift a little bit.
That was your Alex Jones?
That was my Alex Jones. Yeah, that was my Alex Jones. Come on,
I thought it was Alex Jones.
I nailed that shit. Come on. So
I
it
mean,
does
you
tend
could've
to
told
drift a
me-
little to Harrison Ford.
You could have told me you were going Macho Man, and I would have been like, 50-50.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, but,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to hit that extra high point on the Alex Jones. Or on the Macho Man. Alex Jones is just her. All down there. And then
That's
Harrison,
closer.
my family. I want to see my family. Where's my family? You find him. You find this man. See, Greg gets it. Greg knows.
Yeah, I got it.
He gets it.
Greg gets it. Greg knows what I'm talking about. It's Josh. It's the bird, man. We're all running scared. We're all hiding from whatever mind control that that China's sending over in its balloons and taking away our gas stoves and whatever calamity we're facing. Last week I was talking with Amelia. Thank you, Amelia. So glad to have you.
Amelia.
We loved it. Amelia, you bailed us out. Made
Out to
sure
Beth, we see you.
Yeah, and shout out to Beth too, and go sunny in New England. We're happy. Hope Mikey's sleeping through the night. Yeah, we're all just dealing with the next level of crises here, which is of course balloons at 60,000 feet, taking away your gas stoves. We get it. We're down with it. We understand that's happening, but we are the triumvirate of geek. We have reassembled. We've all gotten back together in the same room. Some of us were out just having a good old time, just traveling the West Coast, but we'll get to that. We'll get to those. We'll get to that. Somebody just, taking his sweet ass time, going up and down the California coast, having just a blast with it. Looking at you, Greg.
It's Black History Month.
But we have returned. We are back in the steam tunnels. We are glad to be here. Let me introduce my co-hosts. Starting off with the man, the myth, the legend himself, call sign, the three of clubs. It is RaShaun Smith. How you doing?
What it do? How do you do? Happy Black History to you. And I don't know about any myth or legend. If there is a myth or a legend, it's probably the myth around the legend of something I've definitely fucked up. But I'm here wearing my sunglasses and chewing my bubble gum like my man Nada, aka Roddy Piper, and They Live. And shout out to Keith David, one of the most versatile talents Hollywood has seen in the last, I don't know, definitely half century, maybe 3/4. Man can do it all.
Absolutely.
Actually, I've never seen him tap dance, so I guess that's strike that. But I'm good with that. I'm good with him, not showing up for that. He's there for everything.
Don't forget, including him taking it to the next level on Rick and Morty as the president. So that's some awesome shit right there with
Rick and Morty. Yeah.
Awkward. Okay.
They had a good run.
They had a good run. And they're gonna try with a completely different voice. They're gonna try. I mean, when it's tough, when your guy who does both voices gets fired, but they're gonna try it anyway. So all right.
I mean, it's like
It's not
Squid
impossible.
Billies. It's like Squid Billies all over.
We'll see how this goes. All right. It's like I think of it, I put it in the context of Valerie versus Valerie's family when they had to replace the titular character with Sandy Duncan. I mean, we're gonna see how this goes.
That I went at least to another cartoon that was
a real
cartoon
reference.
that was
Though.
it's Black History Month. You didn't bring up on Vivian. I mean,
Okay, yeah. Well, they just,
they left up.
They just Will Smith her, and Will Smith showed up with the pen, and Aunt Viv was always the same actress. That's how that went. Bing. Hold on.
Right.
I mean, they're two on.
War Machine and Iron Man.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's.
Although no one was upset with that.
All right.
No, I love Don Cheadle.
Yeah, and that's why no one was upset with
no
that.
one was upset with it.
That is the point.
It was like, I've always seen Don Cheadle. What are you talking about? Well, our very own, everyone loves him, Don Cheadle. He's a sweet soul brother. Soul brother number one, the star child, Gregory DeSense, back fresh from his tour of the West Coast. He is number one in San Francisco. He is number one in LA. He is number one in Germany. He is number one in Berlin. It's Gregory DeSense, the star child. How you doing today?
Don't leave out Worcester and Providence.
Still feeling pretty fresh and clean.
All right, good times. So the land of fruits and nuts didn't undo you there? You're okay?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I'm doing all right. The homelessness is out of control, but other than that, we went everywhere, including where working class people dare to tread Beverly Hills.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You went to the 90210.
We
were
did
there.
that. We did that. Yeah, we did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Rodeo Drive?
That was fine. It wasn't
6 blocks of it.
Right? It's actually not that big. I was a little surprised by that.
It's really not.
Everyone is.
I was a little surprised by the fact that we were already off Rodeo Drive. But that's okay. It still totally counts as Rodeo Drive. We went to Jerry Garcia's house and saw, the rich kids that bought it. They were very nice.
Oh.
We bobbed and weaved out of the homelessness, and we absolutely made it a rule to overpay for everything. But it was a great vacation.
Good. Well, I'm glad. Did you guys stop in Big Sur or?
We drove through Big Sur.
Okay, good.
We didn't really stop. Yeah.
Everyone should drive that route and see what's going on.
Part of it, we couldn't go too far in because part of it was blocked off. So.
Oh, all right. Yeah. I will say your experience on Rodeo Drive and also talking about everything in the homelessness. Now, I'm sure it's changed because it has been, it's been well over 20 years. It's amazing to me how long I've been out of California. But yeah, it reminds me of the first time I actually laid eyes on Hollywood and Vine, like when I was there on the corner of Hollywood and Vine, and I was just overwhelmed by what the fuck am I looking at right now?
Right.
Like, what is going on? Really, they say they wrote songs about this corner. Wow. I'm sure it's much different now. I'm sure it's been sanitized.
It's still got some elements of that. I was happily surprised. It wasn't totally touristy. It wasn't. I was looking. I was like, I wouldn't bring my kids.
Yeah, that was my first impression at the time.
I wouldn't bring my kids. Yeah, definitely wouldn't bring my kids. And we went past the legendary Viper Room where I asked myself, I don't know if Johnny Depp is cool enough to get into his own club now.
No,
I don't think he would let him in.
By smell alone, he'd probably be good.
Yeah, and let's face it, there were a lot of funny sound bites that came out of the trial, so that helped him a little. So maybe not, but he'd probably still have to stand in line. He wouldn't get past, you know what I'm saying? He wouldn't be just waved past the rope anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like,
yeah, I think he'd be okay.
They'd have to look him up. They'd have to check up. They'd have to be like, see who his date was and all that shit.
I have a feeling Johnny Depp would be okay.
All right. I guess Johnny, yeah.
I don't know. But there was that time that, Michael Jordan couldn't get takeout from his own restaurant.
Oh.
So it does happen. It's not impossible.
That's rough. Well.
Yeah. It was like, I think it was actually on Jay Leno. He was talking about
the walking calamity
shot in Chicago. What?
The walking calamity. That man's been like 3 accidents in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Oh, he'll be all right. You can't kill Jay Leno. That chin.
Hey, he's trying to prove us wrong.
All right.
Doing his best.
The chin is real.
I just have to say that, Greg, thank you. You always set me up for the perfect segue there. For Michael Jordan not being able to get takeout for his own restaurant. Hey, it's Black History Month, everybody. And we are back for it on the Steam Gentleman, right? And that cannot just typify some things right there. Michael Jordan not being able to get his takeout from his own restaurant. It's February. It's the month of love. It's the month of promise. It's the shortest month. So yeah, we all know why we got it, why that assignment was given. It's, right up there with 30 acres and a mule. Just that eternal promise hung out there that we can actually pretend like we're doing something.
Speaking of which, I have yet to get that. So Uncle Sam, if you want to get to work on that.
There's quite a list of people who didn't get it, including the people who were originally promised that as well.
Yeah, no, I know it's growing.
It's growing. It's a long list, but yeah,
just letting them know. Sometimes people just don't know. I'm just letting them know. I still want mine.
I think that's reasonable. I think that's a reasonable request. I do. I don't
know what the fuck I'm gonna do with a mule, but probably go bankrupt. The irony is I would end up giving more money to the government.
Probably, such is the way of things. But hey,
take that mule though.
But it is in fact Black History Month, and that means we are gonna bring the celebration. We are gonna bring the love. We're gonna bring the joy. We're gonna bring it all back down here. We're gonna throw our arms around and just hug everybody. Make sure that make sure to let all of your Black friends know exactly how much you love them and hug them, and make sure you know how much they are appreciated this month, because that's what we're about right now. That's what we're about here. We're about the love here at the Steam Gentlemen.
Please do not follow those words of advice. Please do not just go walking up to your random Black acquaintance. First of all, if you have to identify that person in that way, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, don't touch them. Don't touch them this month. Leave that person alone. I'm telling you, especially if that's the only time you're looking for that hug. Just go ahead.
Not the month not to tell them to bring it in, huh? Not the one.
Give them a nod and then go in hard in March. That's all I'm pointing out.
Okay.
Hey, then it's just another day for you. All good. Share the love. But if this is the time you are actively reaching out to your Black friend, if you're actively touching your Black friend, if you are putting Black music into your shuffle, if you're doing the shit that like Xfinity's trying to put in traps for you and going into the Black content only in February, do not. And I promise you will be better off for this. Go up to that Black person that you're thinking of and be like, hey, happy Black History Month, and hug them. It ain't going to work the way you think it is, whether immediately or long term. Believe me.
I mean, that's hard to argue with, but, basically, no matter what, just, test the room.
Test the room. That's what I tell myself.
Read the room. Read the room, because there's a lot of they're Black people that think that shit's funny. Me being one of them. I'll hug the fuck out of you. But you want to make sure that this is somebody who's going to appreciate that. Otherwise, it's fucked up.
Wait, you mean this isn't the month for me to like break out my Tribe Called Quest shirt and like go on up and like show it to you extra, like put it right in your face?
You can do that every day of the year, including Black History Month.
Okay.
Do you have a Tribe Called Quest t-shirt?
I don't, but
that's where you fucked up.
Yeah, see, like unforced error.
That right there.
Story of my life.
Okay. Now it's fucked up.
The unforced error.
Now it's fucked up. But before, that was chill as shit. If you actually had one.
If you actually had one, all right.
If you actually had one.
Okay, could talk about that's. I'm just trying to go for all the Key and Peele moments here, right? Just.
I mean, the only thing you're missing is like you didn't bring up the fact that like, hey, let's talk about the origin of watermelon this month, or
there you go. Well,
or who really runs Kool-Aid? The real hard hitting,
really
universal
journalism
subjects.
I just choked on my drink once when I legit saw a commercial that said this month in Black History brought to you by KFC, and I legit choked on my fucking drink. I was like, they did that? They actually said that out loud, and I'm right hand to God, I saw that on a television set once. That legit. I
have no problem believing you.
Look, I know other races that have a hard time with the attention that Black Americans get in a positive and negative way. I get that, but they need to ask themselves, do they really want to go through annual basis of having shit like that? Because you bring up KFC. I gotta tell you, I've seen that so many times in my life. I no longer pay attention to it. It's more assumed. It's assumed like all of a sudden these Toyota commercials. Just I'm not just picking on Toyota, just as an example. All of a sudden these commercials, let's say Toyota, goes to everyone being black when they're playing it during NBA. It's like, all right, I got it. It's NBA. It's NBA game. Cool. I see a lot of white people in the stands, so you probably don't have to go over the top of like this is the only time. And like that's where you get in trouble. It'd be one thing if I saw that commercial throughout the day, like I see other commercials throughout the day. But some of these they try to be slick. Sprite. I'm looking at you, McDonald's. You ain't slick. You ain't never been slick. Matter of fact, McDonald's, you got so long of a history. We're just waiting for it. We're looking for it. Like, where's your fucking jingle? I mean, like,
All right.
Don't leave it out.
Da 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 da. I'm loving it.
it.
Black people, we're McDonald's. We're down with it. All right. But yes, as you've probably picked up on here, it is Black History Month. We want to share the love. We want to talk about subjects. We want to bring that pop culture and that social commentary to you. And due to the toin cost nature of this and my friends here, yeah, well,
it's a three-sided coin, people.
Three-sided coin. Going on to it here. Well, firstly, we wanted to just really talk about sort of subsect today and subculture and, groups within groups and talk about, subverting expectation and everything. So we're all going to sort of take our own individual sort of area, sort of that substrata, if you will, of the blackness. So being that, I'm on the air here with my two best friends, trying my best to just represent as best I can for Black History Month. Yeah, they both agree. Josh, you're going first. Yeah, that's because that happened. Because, okay, great. So glad to be that guy.
I can't think of anyone more qualified to speak on our behalf.
Jesus Christ, really? you got to get out more if that's the case.
Remember that scene in the South Park movie where they're breaking down the military strategy and there's one group of people that was meant to be the shield? Just saying, you're welcome.
All right. Well, my turn. Fair enough. I will take that. But I'm going to step up to the plate for my 10 minutes here. Just try to hang here. Just trying to be I'm just going to be cool. We're just going to be cool. That's how this is going to play. We're going to chill. I'm going to get down to you eye to eye. Sport. Can we talk here? Dog? Can
I rap?
Can I rap with you, Can I rap with you, my son, for just a minute? No, but I did, listen, I look forward to this. This is a fun time. I, absolutely love being, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy right here taking the lead as we move forward. And I was thinking about really when we wanted to talk about and send some love out, I really, of course, had to go back to my home, my happy place, that place that I know, that I love. And really, honestly, what led us to the Steam Gentleman in the first place was the fact that, there is a commonality. We're all still human. I'm going to be colorblind for a second. We all still love the same things. We're all coming back from that same human place. And in our case, we love movies. We love comic books. We love, pop culture, and it brings us together. So I had to take a moment and I just had to throw those big arms around and just hug tight, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off Black History Month hugging these folks. And it is, in fact, going to be my black nerds. It's particularly my D&D nerds. We'll say D&D, but that's sort of like saying Q-tip when you mean, when you're talking about Q-tip, when you're talking about a swab. It's the brand name. It's the one that we all associate with. Because the fact of the matter is I played a lot of other games, a lot of other role-playing games in D&D, including live action role-playing games, which I have discussed here on the show. So I just want to throw out some serious love to my black nerds, my blurgs, if you will. I know you're out there. By the way, I see you out there. I see you out there following us on Instagram. I hope you're listening to the show. It makes my heart literally leap with joy when I see that we're getting that subsect and we're getting all out there. Because, all right, y'all know my background. Y'all know I'm Jewish, but the fact is, I could get myself in trouble here and call myself Jew-ish, right? We know how that goes.
You try and get elected? Calm down.
Exactly. I got to go from there. Now, when my 23andMe came back, it was the least surprising 23andMe ever, because it was exactly what my mom and dad told me. It was like, one half of the pie chart, here's your Ashkenazi Jew, your European Jew, just like your dad told you. And here on the other side is the English with with a pinch of Scandinavian in here and just a little teeny bit of French, right? Somewhere in there. And it was exactly as they told me. But I do understand from that standpoint. I'm going to refer back to the 3 of clubs here, talking about when you have stereotypes, expectations, ideas of what you're supposed to look like, what you're supposed to be like when you come from a certain subsect of society. So yeah, I am Jewish, but I don't have a Jew fro. I got this straight blonde hair, these blue eyes, all that coming from mom's side, which of course she converted, and we know. And it's another show. I'm not going to get into why Judaism comes from the mother's side versus the father's side. That goes all the way back to Roman history. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to something a little more germane. But I really do understand what it's like when people look at you and say, you don't look Jewish, you don't act Jewish, you're not good with numbers, you're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor. Right. As a matter of fact, you work at a gym, for Christ's sakes. You run around. You're doing all these athletic, physical things. You love your football. You love it, and also you're into D&D, and you're into fantasy movies and sci-fi and everything going on. So when I see my fellows with melanin coming on over and my wonderful sisters coming on in and joining this giant party, right? That is, the outcasts of the outcasts, right? The subsect. Nobody looked at this group and said, well, that's the cool kids. I want to go play with them, right? And I just have to tip my cap. If you are Black and you join this group voluntarily, you've got nothing but love from me. I got to give you so much love, because again, referring back to my friend, the 3 of clubs, right? You got a stereotype, you got expectations. You're supposed to like this. You're supposed to be this. You're supposed to be that. You're supposed to be good at dancing, as you said, RaShaun, right? But you want to come down with us and you want to roll some 20-sided dice. God bless you. That's amazing. Like, you are so welcome here. You have no idea. I'm so happy to see you. I've got tears running down my face that you want to come and you want to hang with me. Oh, fuck yeah, man. You are so welcome at the table. Right? You self-selected to go to this barbecue. It's like Sammy Davis Jr. when he converted to Judaism. I'm like, okay, but I got so much love for you. Because again, you self-selected, right? There was things in life you don't necessarily have a choice on, but you self-selected into this group. So yeah, it was the outlier. There weren't as many of you. But I saw you out there back when I was playing, and this is going to my group, Nero, the New England role-playing organization. I saw you out there. We had, it was a small number. Now, keep in mind, by the way, the story I always remember is this was the early 90s, right? So really, again, the numbers are small. The kids who came out to play with us, but they did. And I will at least say this, everyone was welcome. No, and again, we've all self-selected and we are not the cool kids by and large. So no one was chased out. Always happy to hear there. But I will never forget hanging around after the event when some of the cool kids that we had there, they were within the campaign that we were playing, selected to play the bad guys. They were also the football players. And I remember them playing some like early 90s hip hop. So what goes along with early 90s hip hop? You know the words that are being spoken. It's out there. And I do remember the reaction.
Not like today.
I do remember the reaction. It was out there. There was no car involved, but if you watched the famous movie Office Space, where Michael Bolton, the character,
Michael Bolton.
locks the doors and this sort of slouches down. It was a similar moment, right? That the 2 or 3 black kids who were playing with us, and they're sitting out there, were busting out early 90s hip hop, busting out Biggie, it's like, wait,
Don't have to say every word.
Should we be doing this? It was still like that was sort of that first moment of self-awareness, like, wait, is this all right? I don't know. But yeah, that happened. That was there. But gotta love anyone. You got just shout out and nothing but love for anyone who's going to come out, play D&D, cosplay. That's another thing, right? Anyone's going to go to Comic-Con and dress up as their favorite character. And yeah, we talked about it in I like to bring up the controversies every week, right? That there were black elves in Rings of Power and everybody lost their fucking mind. But just, man, absolute love and respect to anyone who's going to come out there with us and get there, and really get into the costume and put the ears on or do whatever you're doing. Whatever, if it's Star Wars, if you're gonna play your Darth Vader, if you're gonna dress up in that full stormtrooper suit, God bless you to start with. But I gotta just give nothing but love to anyone who's black who's going to come out and do that with us, because God, you're welcome. Thank you so much for coming out with us. Thank you so much for being here with us. Maybe you can help bring our cool quotient up. I don't know. Who the hell knows? But you are so welcome to this party. Let me just tell you, this is as close to my subsect of white people have to the cookout. So you are more than fucking welcome, because
wow.
Yeah, that's as close as we got. I didn't say it was good. There's a lot of potato salad there, and there's a hell of a lot of mayonnaise going on. Okay. I didn't say it was a good cookout. There's a lot of raisins involved. Okay.
Oh,
there's a lot. You know how that is. Come on. White people are going to put raisins and mayonnaise and everything. So that's how that's
on their colored greens.
Yeah, well, we can't, that will live in infamy for the rest of the time. But that is my shout out. That is my love to the subsect here, and just my way to kick off Black History Month, as I was put out to the forefront by my 2 besties here. So thank you so much for listening to me, and hope some of that made sense. I doubt any of it did.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to all the people dressing up back in the day in Star Wars cosplay that felt like they needed to stay, at least in the racial line. So shout out to your selection of Lando, and also the other option you had, Lando Calrissian. So
yep.
Happy you really got your choices out there. And also the hilarious thing about everything Josh just said is, look, I love this guy. Like Ken, I think we've all made our love for each other very clear. And if not, I'll say it again. I love this man like Ken. And I really try not to traffic in stereotypes. But by his own admission and other conversations and doings, this man, if he were any more Jewish, he'd be a walking delicatessen. Like, if anyone says this man isn't Jewish, I guess you've never met anyone where you felt like you could say that. Like, he doesn't follow stereotypes. It's the love and the pride that it just pushes through. In a way, it's like if you take any culture for what it is, which is a culture, it's like, oh, that's cool. Awesome. I understand that. That's part of your personality. It's cool. I want to know more. But Josh walks with that pride, and rightfully so.
Well, you're making me off a Klimt there, Vishmuka. Come on.
Represent your people well, man.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't want to overshadow anything. It is Black History Month, so I don't want to, just want to show the empathy. Empathy is important. Like, that's, if we're going to get anywhere as a species, that's what it's all about. I want to take those things that I can understand and try and apply it to things that we can all understand, and, bring us all closer together.
Well, it starts there. We're all the same species. Everything
that's
else
right.
is just made up human constructs.
That's right. That is absolutely correct. So thank you.
I'm glad you brought them up in particular, because it was always a subsect that was up there with like black metalhead, like that was, you're right. I mean, that was up there with black punk. Like, you're talking about something that's just so, at least culturally unfamiliar usually. Like, most fantasy tropes, we know what those are. We know
Yeah.
if it's a historical reenactment, like what side are you on being black,
Yeah.
so seriously, like there were things that, generally speaking, they really didn't grow up with culturally, but they've adapted, and you couldn't help but feel that much more out of place doing it and kind of look out of place doing it. But they embrace it. They embrace it. They go all the way with it. And honestly, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, especially now, because now you can be an open nerd as opposed
Yeah.
to when we all went to school and being a nerd. Oof, that was a commitment. That was like a jihadist level of commitment, saying that you were going to be a nerd.
Or closeted, right? I mean, there was that
or
sort of
closeted.
like,
Yeah, absolutely.
we all understood it too, at a certain extent. Like even on our side, it was like, okay, yeah, maybe we won't talk about this.
Yep.
Maybe we won't
Oh, yeah.
mention, even
Don't
though
talk
everyone
about it.
knew. Even though everyone knew. It's not
Look,
gonna-
I wasn't good at it, but even I lied to my football team half the time in high school when I stayed late for art projects. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I was working on math homework or science or some bullshit. Oh, I was fucking knee deep in some painting. I was trying to figure out how to make look less like shit. So it was like I was all into it. And even back then in the late 90s, it was something as simple as being like, oh man, you're in art class. And it's like, I don't want to deal with this bullshit. Yes, I like art. I mean, yes, you do too, you fucking Neanderthal. You just haven't developed that lobe yet. Like you keep hitting it. So stop.
All right. Well, since we are talking, since we brought up art, let's go to our resident artist. Let's go to the man himself, the Star Child. Let's see what he's got for his, let's see what he's got, bringing the blackness right now, bringing the subsex, and talking about whatever subculture he wants to talk about. How you doing there, Greg?
Oh, I am all ready for this, because the reason I was feeling this topic especially is because what we're really talking about essentially is, the epitome of freedom. You know what I mean? Personal expression. Like being able to see, to be, and, have opinions and shape yourself in whatever way you want. And it's tough, typically, history of America, it always falls that you got to be either hood rat black or entertaining black, sports, pop songs, like whatever, which, to be fair, that's a high bar. Like, not everybody's just gonna wake up and be Luther Vandross. You know what I mean? Like, how the fuck, right? Like, that's a high bar. Like, not everybody can just be, don't worry about it, black child. Go be Michael Jordan, motherfucker. Like, it's that easy. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about individuality. We're talking about being able to express yourself this way. So I wanted to bring up two different groups. One of them, I don't know how to quite put them. I guess these days I don't know what they would be called, but back in the day when you were that, I'm going to call them Afrocentric nerd. You know what I mean? Because you had Afrocentric nerds. You had that dude that always had to just bring up the conspiracy theory, just hate on whatever you liked, no matter what it was. He was just always the blackest of black at all time. You dare not drink milk in front of this man. Like, people, they just wore their dashikis and their kente cloths and their ankhs. Like, if you wanted to be a basic ass Afro nerd, you could listen to Public Enemy. But if you're not listening to X Clan, at least, and then possibly some Sister Soldier, like, no, man, you're not really hitting it. You're not hitting it, man. Like, you got to bring it to that next level of just constant dissatisfied blackness. And they had cool nicknames. And these are real nicknames. I'm not making these up. There was understanding, full stop. Knowledge, full stop. And I'm not kidding. This dude had people calling him Third Eye. You know what I mean? Like, like the brother just constantly saw different things. Now, do I think that any of these guys are going to reshape civil rights in America? No. But the point is, with their ankhs and giant earrings and just red, black, and green, everything, there were no other colors. All right. Unless it was in some kente cloth. Otherwise, there were no other colors. Like, it was just red, black, and green, everything. And it was kind of the, birth of the hip hop nerd too, like, 'cause let's be honest, like that's how you were perceived. I mean, obviously, you're black, you listen to hip hop, you got your own style. How could you possibly be a nerd? Because let's be honest, when everybody talks about mainstream hip hop, you don't know what they're talking about. If they brought up De La Soul, they brought up Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest. Oh yeah, you know all about that shit. But anything outside of the UMCs or more popular than DOS Effects, you had no idea. You had absolutely no idea because you were that deep in the underground of hip hop. Like you got to the underground of hip hop and kept on digging until you found MF Doom. Like you just kept on digging until you finally found out, exactly how many people were in the Flavor Unit. I don't know. I have no fucking idea actually, but Black Sheep, right? Just, like you were going to be able to, rock the Black Sheep. Interestingly enough, Black Sheep did end up getting a huge hit. I can't remember the name of the song, but they did end up getting a hit. So, okay, go ahead.
The white guy is raising his hand with "The choice is yours." Thank you very much.
The choice is yours. That was it. And also ended up kind of, an arena rap song too. But absolutely fantastic. And, proud to see that a lot of those people, those performers are definitely still around, but, Poor Righteous Teachers, I mean, they were absolutely fantastic. Ultramagnetic MCs, like all of these groups. And again, just glasses and high top phase, just looking like the kid in the background in the episode of Fresh Prince, like that dude. Like it started being represented in Black TV shows and movies. There was kind of a character. What was his name? I don't know. They just called him Farrakhan in Menace to Society, but there was that Afrocentric character in that one, and then there was the Afrocentric characters in Do the Right Thing. Like they were just constantly a presence. This one, again, never constantly dissatisfied Black dude or woman that was just gonna be,
most of the cast
about the culture, about the culture, but just in that, just completely over the top. And honestly, it was a beautiful thing. So let's be honest, like they did not exactly fit in. Speaking as a person who was also in that culture for a couple of years, it didn't last too long, but also in that culture. Believe me when I tell you, you didn't fit in every circle. You just did not. Moving on. I also wanted to make sure, like, interesting, you brought up the trans performer at the Grammys, because I was going to say, I have had a chance to check out I'm going towards this as a subculture, but the fact that Black gay live performance is making a comeback. And when I say live performance, I mean it doesn't get, production wise any bigger than Rocky Horror. You know what I mean? Like just think of gay Black theater majors just all getting together for, off Broadway performances, and that is making a fabulous comeback. And think of the theater nerds in school. I mean, think of them. Think of the theater nerds in school, but make it so most of them can actually sing. Like they're really good and can actually, like they're really good. And that's making a comeback, particularly in Atlanta and Los Angeles, where I just came back from. I won't say that Los Angeles doesn't have culture. It's a charge that Los Angeles has had to deal with for a long time. I just will say it's not the culture everyone thinks it is. And so for that reason, I think you can definitely find the culture in Los Angeles, and especially the underground gay culture, which is very much alive and well. And of course, Atlanta, what doesn't Atlanta do better? Let's be honest. Like if it's Black, Atlanta does it better. And of course, New Orleans. A friend of mine was just getting in touch with me about it, and I want to check it out. I think it looks absolutely incredible, but I can't think of just like two things, like being able to create your own version even uber blackness occasionally, but your own kind of blackness and your own kind of gayness, all in, you know, the same country, you know, from a group of people who probably it would be hard for them to understand that they have that kind of liberty, considering how African Americans first came to the United States.
Nope. You there?
Oh, RaShaun?
Oh, couldn't tell if you dropped off there for a second. All right. Yeah, I happy to, what all I can say when you were talking, Greg, I just had to the first thing that came to mind is motherfucker, I'm from Crown Heights. That was
that dude too.
that was exactly when you were talking about that. I can't even remember if I've seen the movie, but I remember you quoting it, and I just love that. And talking about, you know, till all my brothers and sisters have moved back to, been moved back to Africa. And that response of motherfucker, I'm from Crown Heights. I think of that from time to time. I still feel that way.
Because I mean, that was a movie about
like 5 minutes.
The prison riots.
Yeah,
that was a movie about the prison riots. And I mean, yeah, it does. And it, you know, taps into that sentiment of you know, we're just never really going to fit in here.
That and you can't forget CB4. You remember CB4?
Never actually saw it all the way through.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, no.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about your Afro nerd, I just thought about him going through a stage. I'm black, y'all. I'm black, y'all. That was immediately what popped to mind, and that was probably my favorite scene in that whole movie. I was howling.
It was, yeah, because especially, all right, it always got a little bit awkward because eventually somebody would bring up, you know, Louis Farrakhan, and there are very few people. There are very few people that could tap dance across the tightrope of anti-Semitism, quite like former calypso singer and entertainer Louis Farrakhan.
You say tap dance or completely lay down on one side.
and even if you're gonna try to say, even if you're gonna try to say like, oh yeah, you know, it's not that I hate Jews, I just happen to have a air quotes respect for these things that are against Jews. It's like, yeah, that's anti-Semitism.
We can't, you know, we're
that's the equivalent of guns don't kill people, people kill people. It's like, yeah, but the guy holding the fucking gun didn't help.
Exactly, right? Like the gun is in the person's hand.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, I'm over here. We're in an audio medium here and not a visual one, but I'm making the Larry David face right now, you know, just you know, kind of scrunching up the lips right now, right?
I'm so glad you said that, because I honestly always imagine Louis Farrakhan's best friend is someone like Larry David. Like I always imagine when it's all said and done, and like the night retires, like the two just like call each other. I was like, "How was your day?" Well, you know, and the funny part is, look, I know this is probably gonna put some crosshairs on me, but the funny part is, if someone's acting quote unquote Jewish, it's probably Louis Farrakhan. Well, you know, I ordered the tuna, you didn't like it, I sent it back, and the friend's like, and you got a problem? Like, I gotta tell you, Louis, bud,
Louis,
Booby, I gotta tell you, man, you belong in my synagogue. No, but listen, don't be a mashuk. It's like that's always what I've imagined. And I'm glad you brought him up, because the weird part is I have a weird Venn diagram of everything you're talking about. Louis Farrakhan has always been one of those guys where I've kept my mouth shut, especially in being blessed to have a lot of different friends from a lot of different cultures like our Birdmans. And, you know, you don't necessarily want to bring up a name like that, but it's one of those things like, look, if you hate the guy, I'm not going to be upset with you, but you got to understand where I'm coming from. There are other things that he talks about where I can't just dismiss. And if you're going to act like I don't have to walk around with historical figures in my head that I have to quote or work with that completely denied, forget about didn't like Black people, denied their humanity. And, you know, that's a whole conversation. It kind of goes to certain artists that, you know, definitely need to be called out. And, you know, I would argue boycotted in a lot of different ways. But I'm also normally hearing complaints from people who also like things that have a huge history of being anti-black. And I'm just supposed to be like, oh, cool. Yeah. So tell me more about Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the
Yeah,
Wind.
no, fuck Kyrie. But yeah, keep going. Keep John Wayne. Yeah, no, John Wayne was
John
the
Wayne.
best. The
Elvis.
best.
Don't
Did
forget
you hear
Elvis.
about the time he wanted to correct some of the set issues? And by that, the people on it.
Yeah, well, you know, I will tell you this much. The same girl I dated who loved Titanic also loved Gone with the Wind, and fuck that movie just on so many levels.
Dude, I had to watch in
God,
elementary school, and the weird
movie.
part is, like, my dad loved the movie because he on his face was like, I just like the movie. Like, yeah, it's fucked up and it's about fucked up things. It's just a well shot movie and well executed in certain things. So I'm telling him, and I'm like, Dad, you don't think this is a little fucked up? He's like, yeah, of course it's fucked up, but you know, it's Gone with the Wind. I'm like, yeah, that's not how you end this conversation, man.
Yeah.
Well, if we really want to be brave, we'll do an episode on Gone with the Wind, and I'll talk about a 4-year pregnancy. But anyway, hey, RaShaun, what did you want to come here to talk about today? Talk about, you know, I want to hear your thoughts, your 2 cents worth to kick off our Black History Month, and talk about subgroups and and cliques and cool kids and not cool kids and what have you.
Yeah, well, I would have to say, unlike normal, I am going to be all over the place. So buckle up and let's see where this lands. On the surface, I both understand the premise of the topic at hand, and I also, in certain points, agree with it, and certain points completely dismiss it. Starting with the dismissing of the idea of a black anything. You know, first, it's no different than, like, people have no problem describing something and never putting a race to it until it's a black person. Or in a lot of different cases, could be different races. But let's be honest, the default, or at least the sort of expressed thought of the default, would be that, you know, the default is white, and then everything else to have some sort of descriptor needs to be black. So, you know, to say like a black rock group basically means that in order for this group to exist in this form, it couldn't just be a rock group. It has to be, well, there's black people in it, so it's actually a black rock group. And again, on certain levels and certain points, I agree and understand, and also would argue for the importance of certain titles in certain situations. On the other hand, as it's been well documented, and I continue whether to say it or frankly put my foot in my mouth in other ways to try to explain it, I probably did that multiple times already in this podcast, I'm not a huge fan of stereotypes for a lot of reasons. Stereotypes also follow in the ways of, even the ones you think are positive will definitely backfire. And I have a personal story that exemplifies this. So it's early 90s. Again, the 90s were fucking wild, but one wild part about it was I actually loved to play basketball a lot. Fun part about stereotype, anyone who knows me and knows me well knows that if you're ever playing basketball, not only should I be one of the last people picked, you definitely do not want situations where I have the ball in my hand and you're looking for a shot. So it is, again, we're going against principles, I mean stereotypes, but back then, early 90s, I used to love playing basketball in an apartment complex that I was living in. There was like 12 of us, so we always had good pickup games, except for when this one kid showed up. And I'm just going to call him Dale, just for the shit, you know, shits and giggles. Because when Dale showed up, it wasn't so much, the problem with Dale is we, like a lot of us, we all grew up in that area for at least a couple of years, so we kind of knew each other as we were getting older. Dale used to be a kind, decent, cool kid. Annoying, and definitely the example of like one of those kids who may not necessarily be rich, but are in a divorce situation where both parents are just going to overload them with whatever they want just to make sure that they, you know, cover up for the fucked up relationship that they're exposing their kids to. He fell into that category. I lived in an apartment complex that were, you know, reasonably priced, and most of us were kind of what I guess anyone would consider low income to middle. To the point where like some of my friends live in single family apartments, but it'd be like 7 or 8 people in that room. And then it'd be like with my mom and I, who, I never thought myself fortunate until I'd be talking to my friend Paul in that situation and be like, shit, my mom and I have both our own room and our own bathroom, and we're in the same apartment complex, but we like the reasonably priced. Dale came from the apartment complex next to us, which was the wealthy apartment complex. So on top of everything else, the kid would throw money at problems. He would just be a pain in the ass. But when we were younger, he was all right. He was decent. As we got older, and now it's around 93, 94, gangster rap was on fucking fire. And one of the brands that definitely wasn't black, but definitely ran with it was Cross Color. And Cross Color decided that they were going to just approach it in a very simplistic way, which was they were only going to really work with 3 main colors. And when you have it, those 3 main colors were basically red, green, and black. Okay. I can understand where we're coming from. This is actually probably 92, 93. But anyway, point being is like, okay, yeah, we get where it's coming from. So why am I saying this? Well, tell me why I'm standing on the court, and we're now in an argument with Dale, who's now fully decked out in Cross Colors. And he's sitting there trying to tell me that the colors for an entire continent, that continent being Africa, an entire continent, countries be damned, kingdoms and legacies be damned, cultures be damned, all that be damned. An entire fucking continent had one color scheme, and that color scheme was red, green, and black. So here I am, black kid. Yep, I had to clarify it because you didn't know what kind of kid it was, so I said it. Here I am, a black kid, facing down this individual who definitely did not share my culture, definitely did not share my heritage, and definitely did not share the ancestral path my family was on, trying to tell me what the colors of a full continent was. And again, why am I sharing this? Because everyone on the court coming to my defense was saying that this kid was acting like a wigger. That's right. I said the full word with the ER, wigger. And everyone was like, that's fucked up. Don't do it, blah, blah, blah. Because also he was mimicking some mannerisms that, let's just say in Framingham, if you had the right cable package, you're probably watching BET. So let's just go ahead and say my man
fair enough.
Definitely was practicing. So my man was he was trying to fit into a rap video. That's what I'm saying. So everyone was calling this kid wigger. Everyone was upset. And at first I'm like, word, I appreciate people coming to my support. Cool. But then even in that moment, I'm like, wait a fucking second. Hold on. What the hell are we saying? Wait, stop a goddamn second. Everyone's looking at me like, what? I'm like, so wait, are you saying that he's the white version of what we're really saying? So what you're really saying is stereotypically, this is what you think black people are? And I'm also talking to some black people. And some people are like, oh, come on. But other people are like, yeah, we got to break that shit down a little bit. And yeah, in little kid terms. So like we're 12, 13, 14. So put in that context. But it kind of all broke on us at least a little bit differently. Like what we're really saying is when we're using this term, what we're saying is these stereotypical things in some people's mind, even when you take away the bad word and just replace it with black, as Greg even pointed out, maybe a code word for not black, hood or something like that. What you're really saying is all people fall into this category of this race, which is something that I really fucking hate. I just can't stand. So on the premise of the topic at hand, it's hard for me to get away from that because then it falls into the same thing. Well, we're back to the rock group. You can't just be a rock group and happen to have black people in it. You can't just be people who love D&D and just happen to not be white. The weird part is, and the entry point to this also, and I do appreciate, and I'll continue to understand this as I get older, my entry point to a lot of these different things is definitely jaded in the sense that I had a 7-year head start to a lot of it. A good amount of what I experienced growing up was in some ways through the eyes and influence of one of my greatest heroes, my older brother. So it's weird when I'm listening. I understand. And also I need to point out to people for the most part, when after I left California, funny enough, the culture Greg talks about is still near and dear to me, even though I left it at 6 years old. after I left that, I did live in predominantly white or at least mostly mixed, but definitely not predominantly black neighborhood. So Greg and I kind of switched situations where I grew up in a black American black heritage sort of culture. Greg coming from the Haitian side, but also growing up in more of a at least predominantly black. So his experience in talking about the black groups and stuff like that definitely should be listened to and paid attention to. And I'm not trying to poo-poo it. I'm just pointing out, like, when we put into those groups, because again, from my entry point, I grew up watching my brother and his friends who were black play D&D. I grew up watching, like, my family talk about, like, my aunt and my dad talk about the allegories of Lord of the Rings and how really that was sort of in place with the race. And weird part, the conversation would go from not necessarily how fucked up, yeah, obviously you're thinking the orcs or the black people, more in the sense of, do you think he was meaning to be demeaning, or do you think that was his way of trying to be brave and get people into a story that normally would not be accepted by a predominantly white consumer base? Like, those are the conversations I grew up around with my family, my family's friends, and sort of the people we interacted with a whole lot. So to me, I never saw a difference in group. It just ended up being, yeah, if you're black and you kind of like certain things, and that's just what you like, it didn't necessarily make you a group or not of that, whatever. But again, I understand where Greg's coming from, and I get the point.
Love it.
There it is.
Absolutely. We're always happy to hear from you. You are absolutely, you three to club that out of the fucking park. The only small, again, I'm all about empathy. So listening to what you say, the only small thing I can say is of empathy is when people talk about Jewish athletes. Right? Like, I get it. Like, I hear you. That's all I'm trying to say. I hear you, and all I can go to is Sandy Koufax and Julian Edelman and Kevin Euclid.
I mean, fuck Edelman. The dude, he was a legit baller, but I actually always think of Steve Blake.
Okay.
Is a fantastic basketball player. And sometimes he would do things and people were like, oh, and, kind of mention his culture and his background, the fact that, like, he's a white Jewish guy. And it's like, or he's also a D1 basketball player in a top major school who fucking grew up doing this. Like, man, at a certain point, we just got to pay attention to what we're looking at. And when we're looking at an NBA quality guy do NBA quality shit, it could also just be that.
I feel you. I just wanted to let you know I heard you on that.
I'm with you.
That's a legit point.
I mean, a lot of people say that, and I don't disagree with it. Like, I think it's, but for me, it's just like more of an ideal more than something that, you can practice every day, because only, in the United States, this question of representation, it matters, and, respecting people's background and ethics, and, giving them some, giving them their moment, that matters to people. And so, considering again, like the historic and cultural background of African Americans, and then, you play a damn good heavy metal guitar. Yeah, that's a exceptional accomplishment. Lord knows you weren't encouraged to do it as a child from the mainstream of the United States. So yeah, I say I definitely agree, but I just have a perspective on it.
Go for it.
No, I guess that was the Sandman coming to get me. Again, I want to make it clear to everyone listening. I get the point, and it's a salient point. And in a lot of ways, to Greg's point, it's very important, because representation, despite how we get there, despite where we are now, is definitely something that needs to happen so we can get to the moments that I'm talking about. I also want to point out, I'm not Mr. Colorblind over here. I want to be clear about that. That have happened that have been really cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not sure I would have been the person I am now for a lot of different reasons if there were actually groups that I could have gone to, like an Afro future group as I was growing up, because that was shit that I was thinking about and like would like to either write about or even engage with, but I had no one really to do it growing up in somewhere in Framingham. I didn't unfortunately know my man Greg, and then like my cousins would be into other shit, but not that. So it's just like it's nice to see, yes, the not only inclusion but the access, because really what we're talking about and everything that we're saying is access. That's
Absolutely.
what the push
Yes.
is. And on the flip side, I'd be remiss not to point out that I think we need to defend my and our parents' generation, that age group, because a lot of the reason why we didn't see the groups that we're talking about in mass, because in some ways it was almost akin to the talk parents had to give to their kids in the sense of like, hey, look, I'm just trying to get you through public school. So can you nurse at home? Like that's like, that kind of was a gist for a lot of parents in the sense that like it wasn't even so much that kids didn't want to do. It was more like the parents like, no, we ain't. Look, I got enough problems. Let's just go ahead and make it through college, and then you do what the fuck you want. But
Sean, you're not going to play hockey. We got it. Okay,
Yeah.
you know, like that's
because how early you have to wake up to be on ice. I went to one practice from one of my friends, and that was it. After that, nah, we're good.
We're out of there. Well, another fabulous time coming in the steam, gentlemen. Here, I'm just going to quickly call out Greg because he didn't mention Drake, not even once. Just saying, you know, you're talking about the experience, you're talking about that. He didn't call out his favorite rapper. Come on, man. You didn't say anything about Drake.
I don't know. Is Drake black?
Oh shit! Oh my God, he's Canadian.
Yeah, but honestly, I always thought he was Latino.
No, his dad's black from Memphis.
Dad's black from Memphis. Yes, I believe the other side of his family is Latino though, and from the Dominican. So that's why I've always.
Oh, okay.
That's where I've always secretly thought the animosity comes from. He's on the other half of the island.
Drake represents something that I think is as old as the globe itself, which is one culture constantly getting with the other culture. We act like we don't like each other sometimes, but we've been together for so long.
It's so damn true.
I'm willing to bet one was Adam, one was Eve at this point.
It's 100% true that any combination you can think of that you think isn't going to go together and whatever, you're going to find it. Like, that's it. Like, wait, yeah. What?
I'm just saying, black Jewish always finds its way back to each other.
I'm just saying, it happens, you know? Yeah. Hey, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it out there. Well, gentlemen.
Irish Italian. Or Italian Jewish. Or
yeah, my back on my dad's side of the family is Russian and German. Jesus, boy, that went together well. Let me just tell you.
I know we're in Black History Month, but is it weird to anyone else how we kind of break up the European countries, and when it comes to heritage, like it wasn't just one giant country, and they're just acting like, you know, they didn't just change language by the century just to call it a day. I mean, what was the difference between Germany and Britain, Great Britain, like in 1500?
I'll lead us out just in that, you know, I encourage
they had more Moors
to learn lots of history, and they've discovered a new fun show called the Who What Show, where they pair up the weirdest pairings ever. And no joke, in this episode, they paired up Genghis Khan and George Washington Carver. Yes, that happened. Okay, that happened.
Why?
But they don't actually put them together in the timeline. It's just they just examine both the lives. But they were going over the life of Genghis Khan and talking about all the massive death he caused. And my youngest Gabriel looked at me so sweetly and said, "Why do you have to be so violent?" I thought, "Oh, son,
that is a good question.
Oh, son, we're just the tip of the iceberg on human history."
Yeah.
I have such sights to show you, son. Oh boy. You know, he did ask it so innocently. But you know, one thing I will ask you, and I won't ask you innocently, is to go over to Apple Podcasts and to iTunes, rate and review us. We need that. We always need the help climbing the charts. We see you out there, Steam people listening. We need your help. We need your help to go on out there and dominate the pop culture and social commentary world, just like Genghis Khan. Because that really is our agenda here, and we're doing that. Follow us on the
plunder. All right,
we are follow us on the socials. We are the Steam Gentleman Podcast on Facebook. We are Do You Even Steam Bro at Instagram. We'll stick to those for right now. We'll stay in our lane of our Gen X-ness and owning it all. But before we head on out to it, RaShaun, 3 of Clubs, what you got going on for the rest of the week? How you gonna spend this time?
Like everyone else, making it to the next paycheck without fucking out the bank account.
Yeah, that's a noble cause and a noble ambition. Fully throwing my weight behind that, without a doubt. Greg, what you got going on for the rest of the week now that you're back from, are you California dreaming? What's going on?
No, not really. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was a hell of a trip. Would absolutely do it again. But California is fucking massive. It's huge. It is a huge state. So, yeah, I'm gonna stay put, in all of these small, close together states that have very good ramen also. So
awesome.
Yeah, I'm good.
Shout out to ramen. Come on. That's just, if we cannot coalesce over anything, cannot everybody love ramen noodles? Come on.
I think everyone can. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know a culture in the world that doesn't embrace ramen noodles.
I mean, if you don't name yourself.
Yeah.
So we can, point you out and join in mocking you.
Boo this man. Boo this non-ramen liking man. Well, I'm gonna, Birdman here is just gonna do his best to try and, fuck his kids up as little as possible mentally. It's a challenge some days. I'm not gonna lie. I had a massive headache yesterday, and my kids were just being my kids, and I was just looking at them like, can you just fucking not be children for a while? Can you just get a job and pay some bills and worry about taxes and all the other shit for just like 5 minutes and let your dad's headache rest? So yeah, we had to apologize this morning and get back to Dad is not perfect. Dad is not is sometimes gets tired and grouchy and has a headache. So
Dad gets grouchy.
Yeah, Dad gets grouchy. We're resetting that. So okay,
Dad gets grouchy.
Did you guys like way back in the day, probably your kids' age, ever have my dad could be your dad fights in the playground, conversations?
Oh yeah, and
I remember getting to a certain point. I remember getting to a certain point. I'm like, I love my dad, but I'm not putting him through this. I don't need to embarrass anyone on this.
I was really dumb, and when I was young, started with that shit, and like probably by age 10, I'm like, oh no, my dad. No,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like you get to that. That's like the first step of maturity. Is like, I'm not putting my dad into this. This isn't fair. He expects his fight.
My dad, I just, I came to realize my dad was all bark and no bite.
I came to realize that's not something I want to test. Like, I believe my dad can win, but am I ready to live with the understanding that he didn't? No. I don't want to go through that. Not at 10.
My dad was the prototype of road rage until that one big ass dude got out of the car and started talking to him. And that's when I learned the lesson that my dad wanted to talk a line of shit, but he was not going to back it up. So those comparisons ended that day.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't know about, I've seen my father in a fight. He did all right. I mean, like it was late, people had drinks by that point. So, all right. Yeah. There wasn't a hell of a lot of technique, but yeah, I think he did all right. He did good. Right.
That's why Greg is how he is. That's why he's the secure one of us all. That's why he's just so chill.
Because I saw my father get in a fight.
You saw your father get in a fight and apparently do well. And
literally no one will fight with technique. That is one of the worst movie myths that has been propagated on the human race, maybe ever.
Yeah, that's how that goes.
It's not, right. But whenever you actually see someone do it, they're like, "Oh shit!" Like, yo, okay, Jet Li, all right,
yeah,
okay,
all right.
It's a shocker.
Thank you so much for coming in and joining us here in the panel on the Triumvirate of Geek, kicking off Black History Month. I just want to sit here and wish you all well, tell you all to fight the power, and tell you to keep your heat up and keep your head of steam on.
You almost did great.
Almost did great. Just stuck my dick in the dirt at the very end.